Hello everybody, my name is Kara, and today I am here with the Moonchild book tag. This tag was originally created by Rhiannon from Crescent Moon Reads, and I will link her original video down below. I was tagged by the fabulous Miriam from Between Lines in Life, and I will also link her channel down below. Question number 1. Full Moon, book that has supernatural creatures in it. I'm going with Sunshine by Robin McKinley. It's sort of between urban fantasy and post-apocalyptic, but also with a lot of baking in it, and I loved this book so much. It's definitely a weird one, but I really enjoyed the interesting take on vampires especially, and on some of the other kind of supernatural creatures we get in this world. I just thought all of these really bizarre elements worked amazingly well together. Number 2 is Starry Night, book that has a beautiful starry cover. I am going with Defy the Stars by Claudia Gray, because look at this gorgeous like supernova or starburst. I don't know what you would even call that, but it's beautiful. I love it. I am so bitter about the fact that the second book got a cover change. I'll try and insert a picture of the like temporary cover that was absolutely stunning versus the final cover they went with. But this is a great sci-fi novel. It's really character focused, but also with a lot of great world building and action. So I feel like if you're not usually a fan of science fiction, or maybe you're just getting into science fiction, this might be a good one to start with because it is such a fast read and I love the main characters so much. Both of the two protagonists are so great, and there are some really interesting discussions about artificial intelligence and like what makes a person and just humanity in general, and I just think that this is such a beautiful story. Number 3 is Out of This World, favorite sci-fi book. So I have more than one favorite science fiction book, so I'm just going to go with my favorite science fiction book that I read most recently, and that is Midworld by Alan Dean Foster. Shout out to Todd from Todd the Librarian because he loves this book and he recommends it quite a bit. I really liked Bourne, the main character. I thought that the mystery and adventure elements of the plot worked together really well. I really enjoyed it and I highly recommend it. Number 4 is Creature of the Night, thriller with a killer. So I actually didn't pick a thriller because I have realized recently about myself that I really don't enjoy thriller novels. So instead I'm going to go with a more like psychological mystery suspense type of book, and that is My Cousin Rachel by Daphne du Maurier. I think it's one of the best examples of an unreliable narrator kind of thing that I've ever seen done, because I feel like the unreliable narrator trope or character type is something it's really easy to get wrong, because if you do it badly it comes across as lazy or pretentious or just it doesn't work. But I think that this one works so well. There's all this evidence that could go either way, and I think that's really interesting. Number 5, The Moon Controls the Tides, book that deals with water. Setting, powers, etc. Anything water. I love water-based fantasy books, and I'm going to go with Island of the Ants by Eva Ibbotson. This is actually my favorite book by Eva Ibbotson, and it's basically these 3 ants who care for lost or injured magical creatures that they find on this island. And it is just so beautiful and wonderful, and the whole story gets set off with the ants realizing that they need some help because they're getting old. They need some help so that they can keep this sort of animal sanctuary running, and they kidnap a couple of children. So definitely an interesting way to start off a book, but I really love this one. I really love the writing and the world and the characters, and of course the magical creatures themselves are also just so much fun. Number 6 is Daughters of the Moon, book that features some serious girl power and friendship. I'm going to go with Moxie by Jennifer Matthew. This might seem like kind of an obvious one because, of course, it is about a feminist revolution, so you would hope that there would be some great female friendships, and there are, but I specifically wanted to mention this book because of a kind of series of interconnected friendships, and that is the main character Viv and her best friend Claudia, and then also the main character's new friendship with the new girl Lucy. You start out the book and it's all about Viv and Claudia's friendship because they are best friends and they know each other so well, and you really believe this deep-seated love and support that they have for each other. And then when the events of the story start happening, Claudia sort of starts getting uncomfortable with what Viv is doing and with how passionate she is becoming about feminism. But rather than having Viv realize that, oh, Lucy is her true best friend, the book really does, I think, something so much better because Claudia and Viv like sort of talk out their differences, and also the fact that feminist is not actually a dirty word. Claudia really starts to grow and realize that all of these perceptions that the world has about women's rights and women's movements are not necessarily true, and I just thought that was such a beautifully done element of this book, and I love it so much. Number 7 is Spaceship, your OTP. I mean, I have more than one, but I'm gonna go with Hudson and Mariella from Sing Sweet Nightingale by Erica Cameron. I just love the development of their relationship so much because they start out not trusting or liking each other, but they really grow to understand each other and learn to rely on this other person. And I also love the fact that despite all of the horrible things going on in this book and the high stakes of the plot, this is such a healthy relationship. Like, Hudson and Mariella treat each other so well. And there's a scene in particular that I just love, and it makes my heart feel so warm and fuzzy whenever I think about it. And that's because it's a complete subversion of the like overprotective alpha male who knows better than the girl, and he knows how to protect her even if she doesn't know what she wants. Hudson stops Mariella from doing something that could have been really dangerous for her. And she did it without realizing or without thinking about it. And he gets really upset because if this had gone wrong, Mariella could have died. Mariella realizes why he's upset, and she sort of explains herself as like, I wasn't thinking, but you're right. It's like, that was a bad move and I shouldn't have done that. And then Hudson, rather than accepting that he was in the right and that he has the authority to sort of like tell Mariella what to do at all times, he actually apologizes for getting angry at her. And he explains that it was because he cares about her, but he specifically says that that doesn't excuse it. It seems like such a minor thing, but honestly, to come across such a great example of communication between a couple in a book was just so wonderful, especially given that this is a YA novel and that it's really showing that you can have an interesting and romantic relationship while still having a healthy one. Number 8 is Waxes and Wanes, book that played with your emotions. I'm going with Finnegan of the Rock by Melina Marchetto. This is the first book in a fantasy trilogy, and I loved it. It was so good, but it was such an emotional ride, and it hurt me, and I loved it, and it was just, I was a mess. Number 9 is Music of the Night, book that has to do with music. And I'm actually going to go with The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. And if you saw my wrap-up, you know that I really didn't like the main character, and that kind of affected my overall feelings about this book, but something that I really loved was the use of music and how that related to the fairy world. I just feel like Holly Black really got the beautiful and haunting and frightening quality of the music across to the reader, and I really enjoyed how the elements of music work together with the fairy world and the fairy characters. Number 10 is After Hours, a book that has the word night in the title. And I'm actually going to go with a play, and that is Twelfth Night by William Shakespeare. This is a really fun, strange comedy with some, of course, beautiful writing, some hilarious lines, and some really interesting or quirky characters. And I actually want to reread this one soon because this was one of the first Shakespeare stories I was exposed to. And finally, question number 11 is Crescent Moon, book that features a goddess or goddesses. I love books that have mythology in them, and my pick for this question is The Spellcoats by Diana Wynne Jones. This is the third book in the Dale Mart Quartet, and as with many of this author's novels, I don't want to tell you too much about the plot because if you start talking for any amount of time about a Diana Wynne Jones book, it's like you're probably going to spoil it because the plots are so intricate and every step along the way is kind of something that should be a surprise, if that makes sense. But I absolutely adore the way that the river gods and goddesses and kind of the spirits are woven into this book and the world building, like the setting and everything, but also the plot and how the main characters go on a journey in this book as well. I know that's very vague, but you just will have to read it for yourself. Isn't that like the most annoying thing somebody can say when recommending a book to you is like, I can't tell you that much. Sorry, just read it. Just trust me. Okay, you guys, so that was the Moonchild book tag. I am going to tag Trisha from Tell Her a Story, Allie from Allie M Books, and of course anybody else who sees this video and who wants to do the tag. I will see you guys soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!